Lonely Monk Productions. I don't know if y'all have seen the Speedy Ortiz Tiny Desk concert yet, but yo!
That's my Jawn! Hey yo, displace the guilt and...
What's good, friends and family, neighbors near and far? Welcome to an all-new episode of the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast. The podcast, website, brand, movement, way of life dedicated to the embrace and championing of your passions. I'm your host, Nate Runkle, a.k.a. the guy ripping belly flops to close out the summer pool season, a.k.a. Nate 3.0. Back at it again with yet another episode of the podcast. As always, I hope this podcast finds you all in good health and in good spirits. On today's episode, I am joined by Adam Weiner of the band Low Cut Connie. Adam and his pandemic live streams Tough Cookies were a major influence of mine for creating this very show, and I have been wanting to share my space for a conversation with him since the early days of the pod. So I've been looking forward to this for a long time, and it finally happened. And I am so happy to say that it exceeded everything I wanted it to be. And now you're going to get to hear it. Well, in a little bit. Because first, I gotta check in with my homies. How we doing, gang? Happy Labor Day. Hope everyone had a great summer full of joy and excitement. But no matter how great of an inning this summer may have been, it is time to retire the side and give fall its turn at bat. And look, I'll be honest with y'all, fall is my Jawn. I love the fall. You know, I'm a hoodie guy. I'm a blazer guy. And, well, sometimes, not every time, but sometimes you might just catch me in a hoodie and a blazer because I get down like that. Yeah, man, I love the fall. I like the cool fall vibes. And I'll confess to being a big basic bee because I love me some pumpkin spice, y'all. And actually, let me state this for the record right here. Seasonal flavors are dumb. Can we not with this? Maybe I want a pumpkin spice donut in April. Maybe I don't want a time of year to dictate when I get to enjoy some apple cider. Free the seasonal flavors. Someone needs to back me up in this cause. Yeah, man. All right, but the podcast is going strong, and I have a bunch of great interviews already recorded and in the bag for you, and a whole bunch more scheduled for this fall. So the best way to keep track on when those will come out and what's up with the podcast is to join the mailing list. I promise I will not spam your inbox. You'll get like one email per episode, super low key, and it helps us to know who all's out there. So sign on up for the mailing list. You can find the link in the show notes attached to this very episode in whatever podcast player you are streaming this on. Or you can jump on the website at www.yothat'smyjawn.com. And be sure to follow us on the socials at Yo That's My Jawn on all platforms. Let's be friends. Give us a follow. You know, I've been doing this new thing each and every Friday where I share some of the new music I've been enjoying lately. So if you like some music suggestions, get on them socials. Follow us. Bet. All right, we're going to take a very brief ad break and then my chat with Adam Weiner. Yo, That's My Jawn is brought to you by Liquid IV. Guys, it is festival season. And you know me, I love a festival. And the secret to enjoying a festival is to stay hydrated. Liquid IV has you covered while you prep before, power through to the headliner, and recover after the weekend. Liquid IV hydrates 2 times faster than water alone with 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks. Man, I love Liquid IV. It comes in a convenient packaging, and it's tasty. When you see me at the Exponential Music Festival this fall, you know that I will have Liquid IV on me. And it comes in 12 delicious, refreshing flavors to keep your hydration routine exciting. All right, strawberry used to be my favorite, but they have this new one. It's strawberry lemonade, and it is a banger. 1 stick of Liquid IV in 16 ounces of water hydrates you 2 times faster and more efficiently than water alone. It's non-GMO and free from gluten, dairy, and soy. Liquid IV believes that equitable access to clean and abundant water is the foundation of a healthier world. So Liquid IV partners with leading organizations for innovative solutions to help communities protect both their water and their futures. To date, Liquid IV has donated over 39 million servings in 50-plus countries around the world. Okay, and you can get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use the promo code YTMJ at checkout. That's 20% off anything you order when you shop Better Hydration today using the promo code YTMJ at liquidiv.com. Do it, and let's get our fests on. My guest today is the main driving force behind the band Low Cut Connie. Since 2010, the band has released 7 albums, and their 8th, Art Dealers, is set to come out this Friday, September 8th. Their pandemic show, Tough Cookies, featuring live performances and interviews with music luminaries, received massive critical acclaim and saw my guest named as the Pandemic Person of the Year by the New Yorker magazine. Not to mention, was one of the main influences of this very podcast. Folks, it is my honor to welcome to the show our pal Adam Weiner. Ladies and gentlemen, I am joined today by the great Adam Weiner. Adam, thank you for joining me on Yo, That's My Jawn.
My man, happy to be here to talk about all the Jawns you want to talk about.
So I always like to open things up and tell people a little tidbit about my connection to them. And for you, this is a really important interview to me because you were one of the inspirations for me starting this show. One of like 3 or 4. But when you started doing Tough Cookies over the pandemic, like I was just completely inspired. I had been looking for something to do, as everyone was, because, you know, everything was shut down. And so like I was doing live streams and stuff like that at the time. And then once I saw like you like interviewing people, I was like, oh my God, interviews, like that would be an incredible thing. So I just started like interviewing like some of my musician friends and stuff like that. And that's kind of how this podcast version of Yo, That's My Jawn was birthed. So thank you so much for being on here, man.
Mazel tov. Good. You're doing great. You've had a lot of great guests.
It's been a wild ride, man.
So keep it up, baby. Keep it up.
So tell anybody listening a little bit about yourself. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in New Jersey in Cherry Hill, just outside of Philly, Jersey suburbs. What else you want to know?
So like, what did your folks do? What kind of music was playing around the house? Which is like a good one I love.
Well, my family, they love, they're like a Broadway. Everybody's into Broadway. So a lot of show tunes, you know, the sun will come out tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow there'll be sun. That's a good one. Listen, a Jewish family in South Jersey, Barbara Streisand, Barry Manilow, all the schmaltz, which at this age now, I have an appreciation for, but growing up was just not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
At a young age, I got into, you know, old rock and roll, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, old blues. I started buying Leadbelly and Robert Johnson and Blind Lemon Jefferson and Charlie Patton, all the old blues shit from the 20s and 30s when I was 13 years old. And then I got into soul music. I got into punk rock. I got into all kinds of things. And over the years, I've gotten into so many kinds of music. But now I have an appreciation for that schmaltz that I grew up with, the show tunes and sort of the cocktail jazz and stuff. I can really appreciate now some of those artists and great songs. It just wasn't what I was looking for at that age.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. It totally tracks. Like, I kind of feel the same way. Like at a certain point, you start to revisit the things you've rejected, throughout your life. And you're just like, oh, wait a minute, I do get it. And then,
But one thing I will say is my family loved Motown because, both my parents were great dancers. They loved to dance. And so a lot of the music from Motown and a lot of like the Philly soul and stuff that my late pal Jerry Blavitt used to play on the radio, which is basically like anything you could dance to. That music my family loved as well, and I always loved and still love, and I think was very influential on my own music.
Definitely, definitely. It's funny you mentioned show tunes because one of my questions I had lined up for much later, but I'm going to jump into it now, is there's a very theatrical nature to your music and to your
No,
songwriting.
there isn't.
But have you ever entertained the thought of putting together like either a rock opera almost or a musical piece?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. In fact, when I was 21 years old, I've not spoken about this actually. I wrote a show that played in an off-Broadway theater for 2 weeks. And then I actually wrote another show that was in the Fringe Festival, 2002 in New York. And there was a third play that I wrote called Lapdog. That was around 2006. That was at La Mama, which was a theater in New York City. It's still there. I was very heavily involved in theater and initially went to New York City to be an actor, and pretty quickly realized that music was going to be my medium. But I definitely think at some point I'm going to circle back around to the stage, and I don't know what that's going to look like, but I've always thought that I would end up back there at some point. So we'll see.
Oh man, it would be great. Like it's one of those things that like, do any of the recordings of the book of the pieces you put together, do any of that exist anywhere? Because I'd love to kind of hear what that sounds like.
I'm going to go with no comment on that.
Okay.
Maybe one day with my label, I'll repackage some of my things that I did in my 20s, of which there was quite a bit, but I'm not ready to go back there just yet.
That's fair. That's fair. So going back to childhood, when did you start playing music? You started with piano, yeah?
Yeah, we had a piano in the house, and my older brother, is a very, very good piano player. And I think at age 3 or 4, I saw the movie Amadeus, in which Mozart plays the piano upside down behind his head, right? And I figured out how to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star behind my head on the piano. And I really wanted to play guitar. I think Back to the Future made a lot of kids of my age want to play guitar, but I got upset. I really loved Chuck Berry. Like Chuck Berry music still is in my bloodstream. And there was that thing in the 80s where Chuck was really in because of Back to the Future and stuff. And I wanted to play guitar, but my family was a little bit insistent that I take piano lessons instead. And I think ultimately I tried to play piano like a guitar player, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
I always tell people now that people always ask me who my like most influential piano players are, and there are many. Of course, I could list all the greats, but I think somebody like Keith Richards is as influential on me as any of the piano players. I think I play piano a lot like a lot of guitar players that I admire. And Keith Richards is somebody who plays this very feel oriented, kind of meat and potatoes kind of riff guitar. And that's how I play piano. I'm not the virtuoso of piano that some people are. If you see like Ben Folds, he plays piano. He's a virtuoso, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's so many piano players that can play. So John Batiste is a virtuoso. I am not a virtuoso in the way that somebody like Keith Richards isn't a virtuoso of the guitar like Jimi Hendrix or Eddie Van Halen or something. But I play piano kind of like Keith Richards plays guitar. It's all about feel and riffs and building a song.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that is definitely one of the most mesmerizing things about your live shows, and, it speaks to like that Keith Richardsness speaks to this, is that like the piano as a stationary object does not hold you down at all or hold you back. You are not restrained by the limitation of not being able to move, and without using a keytar, the piano is almost an extension of yourself, but you can move around it and leave it if you need to, and kind of command things without being tethered to the stage.
Well, it's a piece of furniture, and it's 400-pound piece of furniture. And look, I mean, Jerry Lee Lewis, Little Richard, Elton John pioneered how to be a piano player in rock and roll on stage,
Yeah.
So I'm certainly not the first, but in this day and age, there's just aren't that many people playing piano as the center of a rock and roll band. It's not the way that I do it anyway. There are other very good piano players, people better than me playing different styles. But for this style that I do, I don't know anybody else that does exactly my kind of style of music on piano.
No, you are definitely one of a kind, my friend. Like, you definitely have that vibe. So when you started playing and stuff like that, were you writing songs and stuff like that, or were you kind of just playing other, covers and whatnot to begin with?
I could hear a song see, I was trying to learn to read music and I wasn't good at it. I really was very poor at it, but I could hear a song on the radio and I could figure it out. And then when I was around 7 or 8, maybe younger, I don't know, I remember writing my first song on piano. I have a tape of it somewhere that was just a very beautiful little piano melody. And then I would say maybe around 9 or 10, I wrote the first song I wrote with words, with a vocal melody. I still remember that, and I must have a tape of it somewhere. And that opened up a whole world. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it was good, but it made me feel something really, you could do something magical with melody and lyrics,
Yeah. I feel like I wrote my first song before I could really play guitar. Like, it was just like, I know, and like, I'll go back and revisit some of those songs and I'm like, oh, that is not the chord you want. But if you put this chord there, it's actually not a bad song, and stuff like that. But I feel like if you have that in you, it's going to find its way out one way or the other.
I mean, I think and I taught music for years. So I helped younger people who were at that same juncture of writing their first songs. And I learned a lot by teaching. And I noticed that for me, I'm really a musician more than a writer by nature, even though I would like to say my wish is that I would be more of a natural born writer. I think I'm more of a natural born musician. By that, I mean, I walk around all day with music in my brain, and the music finds its path, and then I try to find words. Occasionally the words find the music, but I'm 100% music first, which is like there's certain like some of my favorite songwriters that operate that way, like a Stevie Wonder or a Paul McCartney, where it's the music first. But then you realize that so many great songwriters are words and they find the music, right? Elton John, Bernie writes all the lyrics and then Elton sets the lyrics to music. I don't work that way. I could experiment with that, but it's just not my nature. I'm a music first type.
Yeah. Do you hear the melody line first, or do you hear the composition underneath?
It could be whatever. You get it from wherever you can get it.
Yeah, yeah. No,
get
definitely.
it where the getting is good.
Totally. So when did you start playing out? Like, were you playing in like high school and stuff like that, or were you just kind of a bedroom player?
It's funny. I was very shy, totally introverted, shy. Like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I had no friends. I was the kid getting made fun of, totally afraid to talk to people. And yet then I would get on stage in the drama club and come alive, and I would be the star of the show. And eventually in high school, I became kind of like the star of a lot of the school plays. And I was writing a lot of songs, but they were like secrets. And it's funny because I had bands in high school. I always was in a band, but the bands were always cover bands. Mm-hmm. I was always too shy to play my own songs. It really wasn't until I was 18, 19, 20, living in New York City, that I started to play my own songs. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that I would go to the Sidewalk Cafe in the East Village, to the open mic, and put my name in, and they'd call my name, and I'd go up there and my teeth would be chattering. I was so nervous. My leg on the pedal of the piano would be visibly shaking. My voice would be shaking. Now, if you asked me to sing or play piano somebody else's music, which I always had a job playing piano in restaurants and things, I was never nervous. I never was nervous. If you asked me to deliver dialogue as an actor, I wasn't nervous. The minute I would get on stage and play my own songs, I would absolutely be a wreck and fall apart.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to reconcile why that was and work on it. Now I don't even think about it, and I almost never get nervous on stage, but it felt like I was sharing a secret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it kind of exposes how vulnerable it is to share something on stage. Like, it comes across as, being on stage comes across as almost cocky, just inherently, just by being up there and being like, hey, look at me, right? But like, to be up there and say, hey, look at me, and to share something that you've created or an emotion that you're feeling is absolutely frightening. Like, it took me I still don't like playing serious songs that I've written. It makes me feel some kind of way. Now, if it's like just like a straight up like rock and roll, or like I do like acoustic hip hop kind of stuff, if I'm doing that on stage, there's kind of an inherent bravado in it. So like I can just kind of, for lack of better terms, rock out with my cock out. But like it's like if I'm trying to play something about like a broken heart, or a loss or something like that, forget about it. Like you said, I'm a mess, man.
Yeah. It's funny to remember how nervous I would get, because now I can't even relate. Now I could get in front of 10,000 people and my heart rate doesn't even go up,
Yeah. Can you remember when it clicked? Like when you felt comfortable?
There's definitely not one moment, but there was a process.
Yeah.
And the process was in my later 20s, from 25 until I was 30, were these kind of lost years for me, where I was living in a whole bunch of different cities and traveling and sleeping on couches and stuff. And those years, they're like my stand-up comedy years, basically, where I played gigs in dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of cities all over the country and all over Europe. And I put myself intentionally in very hostile situations. I played in the diviest, shittiest bars alone. I played in working man's pubs in England. I played in potluck dinners and frat parties and you name it. And I was performing alone. And these were all strangers. I didn't have fans. Social media wasn't much of a thing. It's MySpace, but nothing else. And I would basically get up in front of a room of strangers, sometimes very hostile strangers, and look them in the eye and try to win the night, and sometimes I would win and sometimes I would, bomb, as Steve Martin says, die comedy death,
Yeah.
It's just nothing worse. It's like, I still have to do 20 more minutes of this, people screaming horrible things at me, get the fuck off the stage, terrible, very volatile situations. And I just went through that process. I did it for a bunch of years. It didn't build my career at all. I didn't get a record label, manager, fan base, nothing. But what I got was better than all that, which was at the end of that, I was ready.
Yeah.
I was ready. I could get on stage because, I started Low Cut Connie at 31. And then I was ready to take people on. Yeah. I knew who I was. I knew what I could do. I knew what my skills were. I had honed it, and the fear was gone,
Yeah. The and like it's not surprising, but like I feel like that power and that growth and that confidence still continues on, because like I feel like going album by album, you can just hear you becoming more powerful and stronger as a front person.
Well, thank you. I will say that Low Cut Connie has been an evolution. It's constantly changing and growing, and I change and the band changes with it. And I produce my own albums now, the last couple and the new one that's coming out. So I learned how to produce, which I didn't know how to do. Some people are natural born singers like an Etta James or something, or Aretha Franklin. I was a good singer, but I lacked confidence and I needed to work at it. I needed to get my 10 or 20,000 hours of singing. And before I think my problem actually was that I didn't think I was a singer, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And singers, we're all head cases, you know? And so we go through these, do people want to hear me things? And it took me a very long time because I have such respect for musicians and great vocalists, because I'm such a music collector and lover. And I didn't put myself in the category with the people that I really admire their singing. And I thought of myself as somebody that maybe I'll write these songs and maybe somebody else will sing them at some point. Right?
Yeah. Like
my new song off my upcoming album, Are You Gonna Run, that I put out over the summer, I absolutely thought that somebody else would sing that song. I wanted Ronnie Spector to sing the song before she died. I thought it would be a woman. And then, like so many times before, then I had to decide, well, I need to do it and I need to do it well. It's funny because I think of myself as like a casting director.
Yeah.
And when I put the band together, it's like this person's going to do this and this person is going to do this. And you cast the roles. And a lot of times I wouldn't want to cast myself in the lead, which is some sort of psychological quirk. But over the years, I've come to realize maybe I'm not bad and maybe people like it and I need to just lean in, you know?
Absolutely. And, you know, you mentioned taking over production and stuff like that. I think that's part of it, too, because like somewhere around like Dirty Pictures, I feel like you found out how perfect your vocals can sound, and you found like what they need to sound like, and even that is still kind of evolving. Like I think the vocal tracks of the, you know, that I've heard on the 4 songs so far that you've released off of Art Dealers, like you're almost at a point where I've always said that like you're one of those bands that, like, you know, the album almost doesn't do you justice because hearing you perform them live is just so powerful and evocative. And I feel like you're almost at a point where you are capturing that kind of power in a recording. And it's just been really phenomenal to kind of watch that growth.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, it's funny. It's all psychology. And again, remember, I taught music and I used to teach kids. And like, when you teach kids who are age 8, 9, 10, a lot of those kids are just absolutely full of confidence and bravado, and they just go for it. You see all these kids on TikTok and stuff playing drums and they just like go for it, you know? But then you teach kids who are 11, 12, 13, 14, and it's the saddest thing. You see them lose their confidence. You see them become self-conscious, and they get shy. They try on all different sounds and personalities and poses, and suddenly they really care about what they look and sound like. They get uncomfortable, and many people never get their swag back after that, you know?
Yeah.
And so for me, if I'm being honest, I always had confidence as a performer on stage, but to make records and as a recording artist, as a singer, as a producer, as a piano player, as all the things, it took me a minute, you know, it took me a little bit of time. And Low Cut Connie has been this gift to me in my life, because you have to understand it was unexpected. It was an unplanned pregnancy. It was a little side project with my buddies that became the main thing and changed my life. It's the fans of Low Cut Connie that changed my life, because at that point in my life, in my early 30s, I had no expectation that I would ever write a song or put any music out that would ever resonate with people. At that point, it had become a thing for myself and for my friends. And when I started to do these shows with Low Cut Connie, and people would come and know all the words to Rio or every word of Big Thighs, New Jersey off the first album, and then every word of Boozophilia off the second album, and people would sing the words to me and get tattoos of the words. And I have a song on our first album called Full of Joy that people got married to, that completely turned me around. And I've tried to just live up to it, if you know what I mean, and try to get better at my job as I go.
Well, it's definitely working. And you, like I said, you watching kind of the growth, especially like the past few years. Like, I don't know if I'm projecting any of this, but I feel like doing Tough Cookies over the pandemic kind of was like your final boss battle. Like, it was like you unlocked an achievement in there, and like there are traits that like, I had seen glimpses of before, but like at that moment, it was just like, it was like an evolution almost.
True. Thanks. we were talking about Steve Martin a minute ago. He's been so inspiring to me. He has this amazing book called Born Standing Up.
It's great.
And it really resonated with me, because he didn't have any success till into his 30s, and he became an icon, but he failed initially. He was trying to he tried magic, he tried folk music, he tried impressions, he tried writing, he tried all these different things. And it wasn't until he synthesized them all into one act, prop comedy with folk music, with magic, with stand-up, with impressions, with all of it, became he's a variety act in one guy. And I feel like Tough Cookies for me was taking all these different things that I had done and that I could do and put it in one place. And I guess people hadn't seen me do all these things.
Yeah.
I never talked much on stage with the band, because the pace of the show is really fast and furious. There was never a lot of time to talk. And then all of a sudden, I was doing these live stream shows where I had to fill 60 minutes of live, no dead air. And so you can only play songs so much. You got to keep the ball in the air. You got to keep people engaged. And so this ability to host and keep the ball rolling and keep people engaged and be funny at times and be serious at times and do interviews and basically create this little variety show to keep people entertained, it all felt very natural. I just did everything, just followed my gut and did everything as I felt it. We started in March. By the time we hit June, I said, I'm going to start doing interviews now. And then I was doing interviews with Rock and Roll Hall of Fame people and iconic musicians. Then it turned into writers and politicians and luminaries, and it just was unbelievable. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And so I want to tell you something because we're talking about this and maybe some people will be watching this. I'm very excited to say I haven't announced anything yet, but next year, look out, just look out because I have this new project called the Connie Club that is basically Tough Cookies Mach 2. I'm going to have a radio show here in Philadelphia, and I'm going to be doing all these live variety show tapings, interviews, music, comedy, DJ, everything, and it's going to be fucking great. And
that's incredible.
It's 2024. It's coming.
I love it. You know, that was one of the things I was curious about, because like you were saying, it allowed you to use every tool in your toolbox, you know, some that nobody had seen you kind of use before. Was there any feelers or any interest from like any streamers or studios to try to get you to host a show?
Yeah, there was. I don't want to say too much, but there was a lot of conversations that were happening, but I think there was a lot of good from COVID and the pandemic, but bad is that there was this time where we started to do things very differently and reevaluate how we did everything. And then as soon as we could, everybody went back to the way we did it before.
Yeah.
So there were all these conversations about leveling up this live stream series and partnering with platforms and really creating a new type of variety show. And then everybody lost their nerve the minute that live in-person entertainment came back.
Yeah.
And so now that the dust has settled for a couple years, now we can actually have more legit conversations. But just like the way that Ticketmaster became stronger, Live Nation became stronger, we went back to the old ways again, out of exhaustion, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that next year I can restart the engine and reintroduce this variety show in a totally different format with live audiences. And I hope people dig it. It's going to be a really cool project next year.
That's awesome. I'm really excited for it. Yeah, like I think one of the most beautiful things about you know, Tough Cookies kind of making, you know, something good out of something bad is that, like, because you were in your home speaking to people in their homes, it gave a connection that, like, I don't know that we would have ever been able to have with the, you know, like this is the first time we've ever spoke, but I feel like I'm talking to an old friend because of how much time I spent with you speaking to me in my living room, you know, like, so like the fact that it still lives and kind of that spirit, you know, like you called it the Mark II, like the fact that there, you know, that's still going to exist in some form, really warms my heart because like you did something really beautiful, not just musically and creatively, but I kind of feel like almost like as a gift to humanity, almost for a certain group of people.
Thank you, and I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Will Donnelly, my guitar player, Will, because he was in there with me the whole time and was completely integral to those shows. I mean, he walked the tightrope with me. And I also need to shout out, it was a 4-person bubble. I got to shout out to George Murphy, who became the producer of the show, who would sit in the room and do all the graphics and keep the stream alive and pivot left, right with me as I threw curveballs. And also Camera Girl, who's the silent hero of Tough Cookies, who was the cinematographer that made it look cooler than just a cell phone in a bedroom, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, you started doing interviews, and I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I have a full envy and jealousy in my heart that you got to interview Mike Nesmith before he passed away, because that is one of my guys. I have been a Nes fan forever. And
Yeah.
What a beautiful opportunity you had there.
That was special. I'm sad to say we got one of the last interviews with him. And it's funny. Well, it's not funny because I would joke on the show about how he was smoking weed during the interview, but then after he passed away, it became these stories came out about how he'd really been suffering with cancer and was using marijuana to help him with his pain. And so I understand now when he gave me 45 minutes of his time why he was smoking weed the whole time we were talking. It was a beautiful thing, and what a brilliant guy. What
Yeah.
a brilliant guy. I mean, musically talented, funny, great writer, innovator, but above all, just extremely intelligent.
Yeah. And so underrated. Like his contributions to the to culture and stuff like that is so understated. But yeah, I was completely jealous when that happened. Like that was the dream. I've been on a tear. One of the main things about this podcast is I won't rest until he or the Monkees are inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I know I'm fighting a lost cause, but
if I ever get, if anybody ever asks my opinion, I will second that motion.
Well deserved.
Yeah, I mean, so many great songs, but also that TV show was just a fucking masterpiece. It was so great.
And it holds up.
I told him that in the interview. I said, you have to understand that you have many generations of fans, but I'm of the generation that became massive Monkees fans because of Nickelodeon and the Monkees reruns that became really popular in the 80s.
Yeah.
With this big kind of Monkees revival. And it was absolutely fresh and zany, and went toe to toe with things like Pee-wee's Playhouse, like these kind of zany, crazy shows from the 80s. The Monkees was a precursor to all that. And I love the Beatles, of course, but what the Monkees did with their TV show, they were better on camera, as a group than the Beatles actually was, in my opinion.
I totally agree. Yeah, I'm a unrepentant Monkees fan. Like I will I will wear that flag clear as day.
So many great songs, and even some of those last couple albums they did that were so beautiful, some of the songs.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you got Art Dealers coming out September 8th. And like I said, the 4 songs that you've released so far are absolutely stellar. I was talking to your friend Eric Bazillion a few episodes ago on the show, and we were both gushing, essentially saying like you're like one of these songs away from being a household name, I feel. And to me, like, King of the Jews is such a powerful fucking song, and the visualizer you put out to go along with it is absolutely stunning. Like it's just,
Thank you.
And I'm not gonna lie, like I can say this from one guy to another. You look beautiful in that. Like you look.
Oh,
really
you say that to all the girls. We shot it right here in my house. I just put on the tefillin, and again, it all comes down to confidence, because I never ever would have done something so simple. It's kind of like when Sinead O'Connor passed away, rewatching her performance in the video for Nothing Compares to You, which was iconic when I was a kid, so powerful. just a solo performer looking into a camera, right? There's, there's a beautiful song playing, and she just looks in the camera and lip syncs the song, and you can't take your eyes off of her. And it takes a certain confidence that was hard fought for me to just do something as simple as that, which is just look in the camera for 3.5 minutes and do that, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, and I also feel like, you know, the, you know, powerful, Judaism kind of symbology of the video is another thing that, like, I feel like post-pandemic, like I was talking to, I don't know if you remember, a friend of mine, Jillian Blair Ivy, interviewed you for the Broad Street Review in 2000. Her and I were kind of talking about like just the imagery of the video and just how like how visually compelling it is and all. But like, you know, as yourself, as you've kind of said that you've kind of not really embraced your Judaism throughout your career, but like this was like a very defining moment of kind of like, I'm here, you know what I mean? Like, and all of me is here, and not, you know, I'm not kind of masking any of it. So like, did this come, like that idea or, you know, kind of embrace of your heritage come from the pandemic? Like, was there kind of a revival in there?
Yeah, partly because, again, like I said, when I was for Low Cut Connie, the first bunch of years, I never talked that much on stage. For the first group of years, I was more in a group. Like, I wasn't the only singer in the group. We kind of platooned for the first few years. I grew in terms of my presence over those years, but we all have insecurities that we carry, and very confident people, performers, whether it be Elvis or Madonna or Prince, iconic, confident people have major insecurities. It's a motivator. You know, if you truly, if you had no insecurities, you might not be driven in the same way, have the same recurring drive, you know, to continue to make things. And get out there on camera or on stage. There's a cocktail of self-belief and self-doubt that creates an artist in a lot of ways, you know? And so during the Tough Cookies pandemic years, I couldn't hide my Jewiness. It was just full frontal. All this extremely Jewish humor, Yiddish language, and sensibility, and me talking about Jewish holidays, me talking from my cultural perspective on certain political issues and cultural issues, and putting my neck out in a much more overt way. I became better known to people as I am, rather than what I was projecting to be. And it gave me a lot of pleasure, and it was great to be accepted by people. And some people maybe turned off the channel and said, this is too schlocky, or this guy is too whatever. Like, there's a channel for you. You can always change the channel. But people really loved when I would lean into my Jewishness, you know. And so coming out of the pandemic, I just pledged to myself that I would keep that feeling, that self-acceptance, you know?
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, it's not particularly cool at this juncture to be Jewish in terms of, in the entertainment field, you know, in terms of looks, a Jewish look is not part of the beauty standards that we have typically. And there's anti-Semitism rising in America daily from all different angles. In the 70s, it was extremely cool to be Jewish. So many Jewish Hollywood stars, music stars. I mean, you got Bob Dylan, Paul Simon, Leonard Cohen, Barbra Streisand, Barry Manilow. I mean, these are very Jewy people. Dustin Hoffman and Elliot Gould and all these people, right? These days, and they were cool too.
Yeah.
You know, these days, not so much. We've actually, you know, we go through trends and beauty standards and cultural standards, and being Jewy is not particularly cool at the moment. So I've seen a lot of Jewish artists, entertainers, and people kind of like whitewash it a bit or project something, you know, and so that's part of it too. I'm just being honest and being who I am, which has taken some years, you know.
Yeah. Did any of it kind of reinvigorate any spirituality for you, or?
I mean, that's part of my point. Is I don't want to disappoint people, but I'm not a particularly spiritual person. I'm an atheist Jew, and I want people to know that I'm not rubbing it in people's face, but there are a lot of people out there who are very atheistic, and they're kind of afraid to say it in America too, because that's part of our culture.
Yeah.
You know, is faith. And I have a very, very deep cultural bond with Judaism, but not a theological or religious bond. And that I want to show people is a balance you can strike that I have, you know. It's your ethnicity and your culture as well as a religion. And even though I don't go to a synagogue and pray, and I don't have the spiritual side, and it doesn't particularly appeal to me because I get all that from music and art. The culture is fantastic. It's so great. The food is great. The humor is the best thing. And the attitude is just fucking great. Why would I reject it, you know?
Yeah. No, I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think it's very true. I think it's one of the things that people tend to kind of overlook is that like you said, like culturally, like you don't have to, you know, have the full on faith to be able, you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know what I mean? If you kind of reject one, you don't have to reject it, you know, completely, you know?
Absolutely. And, that's something that people who aren't Jewish don't totally understand, because Judaism is one unique thing in that it is your ethnicity and it is a religion too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just trying to expose people in some way to this idea, you know?
Yeah.
But man, we really, I got an email from my childhood rabbi, and we've been picked up by, oh my God, so many Jewish newspapers and magazines. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, it puts a positive face, and it puts, like, you know, like it's like you said, it makes it cool. Like you made something cool, you know what I mean? Like as a piece of art, you know, the video for King of the Jews is a fucking beautiful piece of art, and it's fucking cool. So like it, you know, like I can understand why there would be excitement behind it, you know, like finally, you know, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm proud of it.
As you should be. So there's a 80-minute film coming along with Art Dealers. Is any of the visualization stuff from the song releases a part of that, or is it completely independent from? Oh, really?
No, I haven't shown 1 millimeter of the film, and when it's ready, you'll see it. I promise. But we're going to be announcing soon that the film is going to premiere at a few film festivals this fall. The first being Richmond International Film Festival in Richmond, Virginia, September 29th, and then a couple other cities as well throughout the fall. And then we're going to be doing a public ticketed screening in December. And then next year, hopefully everybody sees it.
It's awesome.
It's called Art Dealers. It's a companion to the album. And you got to see it.
I can't wait.
It's pretty cool, man.
That's awesome. It's exciting, man. Like it's like when I heard that was kind of coming out, along with the album or alongside the album or whatnot, it just made me that much more excited for this project because putting that much effort and creativity into something, especially coming from someone as talented as yourself, is just I'm sure going to breed something beautiful.
I never made a film before. I got to shout out my director partner, Roy Power. He and I directed this film together, and it took a couple years, and I couldn't be prouder of it. It is really something special. It's funny, and it captures the Low Cut Connie ethos really well.
Awesome. Can't wait. Well, at this time, you want to go through my little questionnaire that I end every interview with. It's called the Jawntlet, and it's made up of 2 sections that start with the one-hit wonders. And the first one, I don't think is fair, but Billy Joel or Elton John, who do you prefer?
Oh, God. That's awful. That's an awful question. Elton John vocals, Billy Joel piano.
Okay, I like that. I like that a lot. How does it feel when someone as legendary as Elton John says they're a fan of your stuff? Does that breed any of that confidence that you weren't feeling as a vocalist?
Elton, I felt like I knew him when I met him. I grew up with his music, and he's similar. He and I are very similar in that he was kind of a insecure, goofy, gawky, shy kid who reinvented himself through his music and his shows. So, and he didn't take himself seriously as a singer until late in his career, even though he was one of the best singers of his generation. So it felt very familiar to me.
Yeah.
When we became buddies.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. The next one in this, Debbie Harry or Joan Jett?
Oh, man, they're both so talented, but I got to go with Debbie Harry. I'm from New Jersey. She's my Jersey girl. She's the coolest ever. Still. I mean, still. She's just one of the coolest rock and roll icons to ever grace the planet. She's the most photogenic person that's ever walked the planet. Truly.
I 100% agree with that.
You ask me what rock and roll looks like, just look at Debbie Harry.
Facts. Next one, big one, Aretha Franklin or Tina Turner?
Man, oh man. I mean, I would say, Tina's one of my greatest live entertainers. So on stage, Tina; in the studio, Aretha. That's how I'll do it.
Good answer. Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
That one's easy. Nirvana was absolute. I loved both bands. When I was 11, they both came out. But Nirvana, in terms of the songwriting, is the one band of that era that the songwriting has truly stuck with me. You go in and out of phases with certain periods of music and decades and trends, but his songwriting really has always resonated with me.
I dig it. Janis Joplin or Stevie Nicks?
Stevie Nicks, no question. Both great talents, but I'm not afraid to tell people that watch Tough Cookies know that I absolutely love Fleetwood Mac. We covered a lot of Fleetwood Mac.
Yes.
And I just love all the mythology of the band. And I love what conflict breeds in music. And that's a band with all these different personalities and flavors and things that maybe should not be together and shouldn't go together, and it made some incredible songs.
Yeah, there's a article that someone wrote for Rolling Stone, and I forget who it was, and now I'm like going to kick myself because she's a brilliant writer. But she wrote an article about Silver Springs that kind of leads up to, you know, the performance in, what was it, like 97 or whatnot, in the reunion. And it, like, I swear, like, just that piece alone is like all encompassing how perfect Fleetwood Mac was. Like, it's just, if anyone were to ask, like, can you explain to me Fleetwood Mac, I would be like, read this article about one song and you'll get all of it right there.
Yeah.
The big cliche one, Beatles or the Stones?
Fuck, man. Gotta be, for me, people are not going to be surprised that I'm going to choose the Stones. If you're making me choose, I mean, I am a Stones fanatic. I love the Beatles, but I'm a Stones fanatic.
Yeah.
You know, I could pick the Beatles up and put them down and not listen to them for a year, but I don't go more than a couple weeks without listening to a Stones album.
Absolutely. You got a favorite Stones album?
Exile, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Yeah, it's just I mean, like, it's so,
the one I go back to the most and I've learned the most from.
Yeah, and there's no skippers. Like, it is brilliant.
It's an A+.
Absolutely. The last one of the one-hit wonders, Bohemian Rhapsody or Stairway to Heaven?
Damn. I'm going to go with Stairway, believe it or not.
Interesting.
You know, Freddie is one of the greatest singers of all time and one of the greatest front people of all time. But from a musical perspective, I just think Led Zeppelin has 10 times more going on than Queen from a musical standpoint.
Okay, respect. I take it. I can take it. The second half of this is the top 10 countdown. Now, all of these I use Jawn to be whatever you want it to be. Obviously, you're from the area. You know what we got going on. It doesn't have to be music; can be anything you want. But number one, what was your first Jawn? What was the first thing you were obsessed with when you were a kid?
Chipmunks.
Yeah,
Alvin and the Chipmunks.
The animated or musically?
I saw that. Well, first of all, the show, but I saw them live at the Spectrum when I was 3 years old, and that was insane.
That's awesome. That is incredible. Number two, what's your current Jawn? What are you into right now?
Damn. I am really into salsa music from the 70s, Fania Records. Hector Lavoe is my current obsession. He was the king of salsa in Spanish Harlem in the 70s. And if you haven't heard the music of Hector Lavoe, check him out.
All right. I will as soon as this is over. That's awesome. I love a good tip on something I've never heard of. So I will definitely check into that. Number three, you may have just answered it. What was your first concert? What was the first live show you saw? Chipmunks. That's awesome. That's so cool. Have you ever heard, there's a album, I think I have a vinyl rip of it somewhere on an old iPod, probably stashed away because I never throw away old tech, but the Chipmunks Sing the Beatles. It's a phenomenal album.
Yeah, man. The Chipmunks, they knew what they were doing, man. They were good band.
They were hip. Number four, what was your last concert? What was the last live show you saw?
Oh, my God. Well, this Friday, I'm going to see Bruce.
Oh, nice.
What was the last concert I saw that I wasn't in?
I mean, it counts if it were like you were playing a festival or something like that. But yeah, last one you saw as a spectator.
So many. What was the most recent? My friend came to Philly. William Elliott Whitmore played at Johnny Brenda's. He's a really cool kind of Americana guy from Iowa, and he put on a great show, William Elliott Whitmore.
Awesome. I love it. Number five, what was your favorite concert? What was the best live show you ever saw?
One concert?
Yeah.
You're killing me. If I had to pick one, I'm going to go with Iggy Pop when he went the first Stooges reunion show, 2004 or 3. Randall's Island in New York. Iggy Pop, just his stage IQ is off the charts. What he does live and how he's able to command an audience live is unparalleled.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I can see kind of that influence of Iggy in some of the way that you stalk the stage, actually.
It was life changing. And I've been to a lot of great concerts and a lot of great performances, but he is really something special. He gives 157%.
Completely.
And he just wants to get you off every single person in the audience, and he does the job. It's like there's a subtle thing with performers that I can look at them and say and sort of figure out what motivates them in a way. They may not know. But my favorite kind of performer and the performer that I aspire to be are the most generous performers, the ones who are there for you. They're not there for them. And there are certain artists, Iggy being one of them, Tina Turner was one of them, James Brown was one, Prince was one, Bruce Springsteen is one, who are able to synthesize all their tools, use every talent that they have to give you the experience that they think you deserve, which is a subtle difference from what so many performers do, many skilled and talented performers, which there's some element of wanting to be there to be admired. Mm-hmm. There's an ego exercise at play. That can be very entertaining too. But some of the people I just named that I hold in the highest esteem, are there 100% for you. They are there to entertain you and give you an experience. And what they get out of it, it doesn't even come into play in their performance. And Iggy was the first thing I saw with my eyes live that showed me that.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, and I think you're spot on with that. And I think one of the other traits that all of them share, and you share as well, is that you too are enjoying yourself when that connection is made. When you can see that you've brought that and you've given the experience to the audience, like you can see the joy in your face. Like you can tell when it's working,
Yeah. And if you look at Iggy now, he can barely walk, but he still has that spirit, He'll still, his toolbox has shrunken with age, but he's still going to give you everything that he has, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Number 6, who have you never seen live that you wish you would have? They can be living or dead.
Easiest one to answer, Prince. Prince is my ultimate musical idol, and I never got to see him live. I've watched every clip and studied and read the books and have all the records, and I never got to see it in person.
Putting controversy together or getting, the clearance to do that, did you ever get to have any conversation with him, or was that
controversy was after he passed?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, I never met him or anything. I know a bunch of people in Prince world now.
Yeah.
And just had an amazing experience at Paisley Park recently. From some of the Low Cut Connie fans over there that run it. But I never met him. I never interacted with him. And I have learned more from him than any other musician.
Yeah. When I was a kid, it would have been my second concert I think I ever would have been to. My parents bought tickets for the Purple Rain tour and had one for me, but then found out what the live show was about. So, it was like, and then sold the ticket that they bought for me for someone else. And I never got to see him. So like, that's one of my big misses as well, is like, I had the ticket. I mean, I was a 7-year-old or something like that, but
yeah,
it's a bummer. Number 7, what's an unappreciated Jawn? What's something you wish had more attention to it?
An underappreciated Jawn. It's funny. I'm obviously only thinking about music so much of the time, and the list of underappreciated musicians is just unfathomably long for me to choose one. Well, as I sit here, I'm doing this interview with you right in front of my vinyl collection, and I have an entire section of just New Orleans music. And then I have a whole section that's just Memphis music. Right? And so many of the people in these parts of my collection are underappreciated. I think I know who I'm going to choose. I had the good fortune of interviewing Don Bryant. You may not have heard of Don Bryant. That's the point. Don wrote the song I Can't Stand the Rain. I can't stand the rain against my window. He wrote that song. His wife, Ann Peebles, recorded the song. Recently, over the last 10 years, he's made some records. Now he's in his 80s. And he's one of the great soul music performers out there now, and he's doing well overseas, but people do not know who he is in the US. He doesn't get played on any radio station. He barely can tour in the US. And I think he's one of the soul greats. Don Bryant from Memphis.
Got to check it out. You mentioned New Orleans there, and thanks for reminding me, because it totally slipped my mind. You got to perform at Pres Hall like a week after I was there, and when I found out, I was so mad. Like I was like, "Oh my God, we missed it by a week!" But what was that experience like? Because that's just that's hallowed ground right there.
It was pretty cool, although I broke their piano. I was the last performer on the last day of Jazz Fest. And I broke their piano.
Oh my God.
It's a really old historic piano, and I just played it a little too vigorously, and I broke a few keys. I hope they'll forgive me. No, it's an amazing place and an amazing experience, and I really hope I get to go back there. Jaffe and all those guys who keep that band going it's just amazing. And I was very touched that they asked me to do it.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. It's so awesome. Number 8, what's your favorite album? I know it's a shit question, but what's your favorite album?
Of all time, like one album of all time?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, you're killing me. Ooh. Well, I guess, I can't give you like a top 5.
I'll take it.
I should have prepared. I'm going to go with the Motown box. So there's a Motown singles collection, Purple Rain, Exile on Main Street. I'm going to go with Lady Soul by Aretha Franklin. And I'm going to go with a wild card, just because I was listening to it the other day and I really love it, is a country album called Viva Terlinga by Jerry Jeff Walker. That's probably my favorite country record. Those are all albums that I've been listening to for decades and I just keep going back to.
It's awesome. I love it. Number 9, name an artist whose output you'll consume anything they put out.
Oh, anything? it's only a few, actually. I mean, there's certain artists that I'll get into a phase, and for a week, that's all I'm, you know. But I would say James Brown
Yeah.
would be the first answer, because there's nothing. I think he might be the only artist where there's almost nothing that he put out that I don't like, that I don't find compelling in some way. Every artist, Prince, David Bowie, Rolling Stones, Aretha Franklin, you name it, they've got something that I don't care for. No, it's in the minority. I like a lot, you know.
Yeah.
James Brown, from the Famous Flames all the way through. I saw him in 1999 in Philly, and he had a song. The Columbine shooting had just happened, and he had a song, "Killing is out, school is in, come back tomorrow and try it again." And it was goofy, but it was a pretty sick song, and he was saying some shit with it too.
Yeah.
He was just such a pure musical artist, a true, I don't use the word genius often. He was a musical genius, James Brown. So, him.
Great answer. Great answer. The 10th and final of the top 10 countdown. What is your favorite Jawn of all time? Again, doesn't have to be music, can be anything you want it to be.
Oh man. I love I guess I would say, just because it's summertime, and people that know me know I love summer and I love hot weather. So I would say watching a sunset on the beach.
Fantastic.
I'm a man of simple pleasures.
It really does.
I'm a beach goer. I love swimming in the ocean. I love everything about the beach. And sometime around the last week of August, I will be sitting on a beach watching a sunset, and it will give me energy for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many sunsets I've seen, it will always mesmerize, especially like you said, like on a beach. Like it is just like kind of like yeah, I remember the first time I saw the sunset on the Pacific Ocean, and it was just like I saw something completely brand new. It's a process that the sun does literally every day, yet because it was just into the water instead of away from the water, like completely mesmerized me.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So Art Dealer, September 8th, and then you're playing the Exponential Music Festival, where I will be. I'm a avid XPN listener and love that festival beyond belief. And any surprises for the Exponential Music Festival?
Yes.
Yeah.
There.
Okay.
You'll see.
I love it.
Yes.
Last time you surprised me, I had Greg Seltzer on the show, and he was like, "Oh, you're not going to want to miss the Low Cut Connie show for the Philadelphia Music Fest this year. Adam's doing something special." He's like, "I can't tell you what it is." And then we stopped the interview, and then off mic, he was like, he's got the Hooters are going to show up," and I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'll see you there." Immediately. So
we also had Marshall
Allen. Yes, that was such a beaual show, man. Like that was just. And you guys sounded so good. Like it was just a powerful night.
He's the man. He just turned 99, and got to hang with him. And what's funny is they kept saying, put Marshall's song at the beginning of the show because he's 98, and we got to get him home. And he sat at the side of the stage and watched the rest of our show. I mean, he's just a real music guy. And that was a really special night. And the Hooters surprise performance and was just awesome. It was. I hope we get to do that again.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, like the amount you've done, not just for showcasing your own talents and stuff like that, but the amount you've done to kind of shine some light on, you know, some people who deserve their flowers and stuff like that has been absolutely beautiful. And, you know, I'd be remiss to go through this interview without mentioning the low cut strut with Jerry. And what a beautiful tribute to be able to have something like that, to be able to share.
Oh,
And,
thank you.
And what a loss.
Obviously, your listeners are Philadelphia people, so they'll know who Jerry was. And he was a dear, dear, dear friend and mentor and supporter of me and Low Cut Connie. And we made that song a bunch of years ago, but we forgot that it wasn't out. It was only on a vinyl single. So the minute that I found out that he was sick, we started talking about putting it out. And anyway, he was such a cheerleader and a confidence builder and just an exciting person to be around. And when I would get discouraged, he literally would call me and leave voice messages saying, "My man, don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. You're a star. You're a star. You're a star." You know, over and over for years, he would just, and anytime something good would happen in Philadelphia Inquirer, something, he'd see me on the news and he'd call me and take me to lunch and tell me how proud he was. He was just like my musical godfather in Philly. He really was.
It's beautiful, and it's a tragic loss. And I will also, I gotta say it because I know the listeners are waiting for me to do it. Was also in an episode of The Monkees, so there you go.
Yes, he was. He was also in an episode of SpongeBob.
Was he really?
Yep, he played a tuna fish that was a DJ.
Oh, that's incredible! Absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
I love it. Adam, thank you so much for doing this. Like I said, it was tough cookies that kind of helped create Yo, That's My Jawn. So to be able to finally get to talk to you and not just talk to my screen as you are, you know, performing, but to actually have a conversation, man, it means a whole heck of a lot to me. And thank you not just for doing the show, but for creating all of the beautiful stuff that you've created. It means a lot.
Oh, man, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. Please come say hi the next time you're at one of our things, and I'm sure I'll see you around town. I'll see you in Ambler.
Hell yeah. That was so incredible. My thanks again to Adam for joining me on the show today. Low Cut Connie's new album, Art Dealers, is out this Friday, September 8th on Contender Records and will be available on all streaming services and available on both vinyl and CD. You can see Low Cut Connie perform at the Exponential Music Festival presented by Subaru Sunday, September 24th at Wiggins Park on the Camden waterfront. And the Art Dealers film will be screening at the Heartstrings Music Festival in Richmond, Virginia on September 29th. Links to all of those are, as always, in the show notes. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe to the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. And guys, it is not too late to get yourself a super awesome Jawn Scout Merit Badge for Citizenship of the World just by rating and reviewing us. Don't forget to visit www.yothat'smyjawn.com for articles, merchandise, and links to all of the previous episodes of this podcast. And while you're there, be sure to sign up for our mailing list to get all of the updates delivered straight into your inbox. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/YoThat'sMyJawn for updates and live streams. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Yo, That's My Jawn, and search Yo, That's My Jawn on YouTube to find the Yo, That's My Jawn YouTube channel. Like and subscribe the heck out of that ish. We want to hear from you. Reach out, and touch some Jawn. Heading out to San Francisco for the Labor Day weekend show. I got my hush puppies on. I guess I never was meant for glitter rock and roll. Oh, man. Rest in peace to the legend Jimmy Buffett. Yeah, I know we're all sad, but I like to think he told us a very long time ago that come Monday, it'll be all right. Blue skies until next time, everybody.
Hey yo, displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure. Your taste in music doesn't have to be.
Yo, That's My Jawn is a Lonely Monk production written and produced by yours truly, Nate Runkle. Theme song by Phil Tyler Music featuring Nate 3.0. Special thanks to Fox Run Brands, DX Ferris, Andrew Scott, Natalie Runkle, and the incredibly brilliant and wickedly stunning Katie Daubney. If you or anyone you know has any ideas they would like to share or any guests they would like to hear on the podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at yothat'smyjawn@gmail.com. Or you can leave an audio message for us and possibly hear yourself on a future episode by visiting anchor.fm/ytmj/message. Until next time, be sure to displace the guilt and embrace the pleasure and shout to the world, yo, that's my Jawn.